Hey, football fans, Brian Sweeney voiced the Women's Football Alliance National Championship game, and it's already week 6 of the regular season. This week, we will look at one of the original women's football teams, the Minnesota Vixen, as teams get ready for the playoffs and the national championship in Canton, Ohio, July 23rd and 24th. This and more on the road to Canton. As always, I am joined by the owner of Football Game Plan, Emory Hunt. Emory, can you believe we're in the home stretch of the 2021 season already?
I can't believe it, man. It feels like we just started, and we've seen a lot of football so far this season. And we're, like you said, we're in the home stretch. So excited to kick it off this week to see what we have going.
Well, before we talk about the season so far, the WFA will be highlighting a player of the week each week this season. For week 4, we honor Jasmine Renning, running back for the Arizona Outcast. In the Outcasts game against the Inland Empire Desert Eagles, Renning ran the ball 11 times for a total of 264 yards and 3 touchdowns, helping the Outcast to a 60-0 victory. Renning and the Outcast, now 4-0, travel to Las Vegas to play the 1-3 Sin City Trojans this weekend. On Saturday, May 29th, the Boston Renegades lost a great coach. Coach Al was part of many teams over the years: the Intensity, Storm, Bandits, and Renegades. Al helped to make the defensive line better with his encouragement and wisdom of the game. Al Lockhart was 65.
Established in 1999, the Minnesota Vixen are the longest continuously running women's professional football team in existence. Thanks to their barnstorming tour back in 1999, in 2000, we saw 11 women's professional football teams come about thanks to the success that they had back in 1999. Now, recently, Brian went ahead and spoke with Michele Braun, who was a part of that process early on, to talk about the Minnesota Vixen then and about the football team now.
So I'm here with Michele Braun, one of the original women's football players. Michele, who'd have thought back in 1999 that 23 seasons later, you would still be a part of this amazing game?
It is pretty remarkable when you think about it, Brian. It's scary to think that many years have gone by, but in a lot of aspects, it hasn't felt like 23 years. So we just go with it.
Sure. And then now, when we talk about that, 23 years, tell me, how did you find out that this was going to happen? How did you find out that they were going to, make an attempt to have a women's football league?
Well, I was quite an avid newspaper reader back in the day. And, that was something that we did 23 years ago. People read the newspaper quite a bit. And I would always go in the sports section. That was my first thing I always read. And there was a little 1-inch by 1-inch little square in the probably second or third page of the Star Tribune, Minneapolis Star Tribune, saying women's football tryouts Metrodome. And just a little blurb of time and date. I think it was in November of 1998, technically. And I had always wanted to be on the floor of the Metrodome. My high school football team had been to the state tournament and won the state championship twice. And I was there both times. And I was so envious of those guys getting to be on the floor of the Metrodome, playing their hearts out, playing for a championship. Something I'd always dreamed about. And when somebody tells me that, hey, you could, try out for a football team on the floor of the Metrodome, it's a no-brainer. I mean, I had to be there.
So prior to trying out, had you ever played any high school sports? I mean, nobody wakes up in their mid to late 20s and decides that I want to play professional football.
Well, actually, I was 31 years old when I tried out and made the team. I was high school. I played basketball. I played softball. I was in color guard for 5 years in high school, 5 years in college. I was in softball in college. I was the type of kid that when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, I would take my Nerf football and throw it in the backyard after like watching a Gophers game or a Vikings game. And I would make the spectacular catches and do all that stuff. And I just was one of those kids that just, I don't know, football for me was something that I just had a lot of passion for. I didn't have anybody in my family that was super passionate about the Vikings or the Gophers. My parents watched and things like that. But I don't know if it was the uniform. I don't know if it was the action. I don't know what it was, but I was a junkie since I was like 5 years old. And I just took to it and just really, it was something in the back of my mind that I wish I could have done. And like I said, I never envisioned ever having an opportunity to do it. I mean, I went to a tryout with about 300 other women of all shapes and sizes, athletic abilities, and never thought I would have a chance to make the team. I would hope I did the best that I could, but it was a remarkable experience, and just it's something that you'll never forget.
So you showed up to tryouts, and what was the actual process? What did they make you do? How they decide who to pick for the team?
The tryout process, I think we were there for about at least 90 minutes to almost 2 hours, throwing the ball, catching the ball, running routes, doing a lot of drills, that type of thing, and just interacting a lot with, in groups and things like that. And then after that, I think they let us know a couple of months later, I want to say it was, I want to say there was another tryout in the spring, which I went to that as well. That was at Augsburg. And I think that was in the spring. And then they were going to let us know later that summer because we were going to start the barnstorming tour in September, I believe, and start practicing. So I think that's how it went back then. Yep.
So I know you were the center, and I also know that you were a long snapper. Any other positions that you played throughout the years?
Yep, I played every offensive position on the offensive line. I played tackle, I played guard. I've also played defensive tackle and defensive end.
So of all those positions, then, do you have a favorite position you played?
Center was always the favorite. I mean, you get to touch the ball all the time, and you have a lot of responsibility, and you have to be hyper aware of a lot of things. You have to know what everybody does on the line and know what their jobs are, what their roles are. You have to be somebody that is dependable and responsible and is a good player and strong player. And that's something that I always try to strive myself to be.
So here we are 23 seasons later, and you haven't missed a season other than the COVID canceled season. And I mean, at what time did you decide it was the right time to step away from the playing aspect and move over into the coaching? And was that a hard decision to make?
Yeah, it wasn't an easy decision. I wanted to always end on a nice round number like 20. I did that, and I sincerely thought that we were going to go into our WFA championship against the New York Sharks in Atlanta, and I truly thought we would come out victorious there. And I asked myself, if you wanted to end that way, what a perfect way to end. You accomplished what you always wanted to accomplish, which was to win a championship. We had a huge rivalry with the New York Sharks. It was our 20th season. I thought the everything lined up cosmically, and it was really disappointing to not get that victory. It was a hard pill to swallow, and I kind of thought, since I had kind of leaned towards that internally most of the season, with a few people kind of just figuring that was really the way I was going to go, I figured it was best to step away and retire from playing. It still was a hard decision. I miss playing, especially this season since my O-line is shrinking and I'm down to about 9 players now. So I miss that part of it, but at age 54, I'm really glad I'm probably not playing. It's pretty tough on the body, and you have to get yourself to a level athletically and physically that, there's not a lot of people that understand what you have to do to play 20 years in the sport. You have to prepare your body every single season. You can't take very much time off, and that's a challenge.
Now, you're not the only Vixen player to be around for over 20 years. There's a couple other original players on the team as well. Cynthia Red Bryant and Jody Moose Raylander, although I think she took a couple years off to have children, correct?
Yep, she was an original Vixen and took a couple years off. They're all both younger than me. That's why they're still playing, Brian. Come on. They're all younger than me. If I was still their age, I would still be playing. That's just a guarantee. I just started a little later than they did when we first came back in 1999. They were in their 20s and I wasn't. So that was my downfall, if you may. So
now you're coaching. And I mean, you must get a lot of respect and admiration from the incoming rookies. What's that like for you?
Well, it is nice when they do listen to me. I coached various sports for a long time before I got back into football full time. And, the biggest thing is that you try to convey to them is like, you understand what they're going through. I remember what it was like being a rookie. I remember what it's like being a second or third year player. I remember the learning curve. It is a little bit of a learning curve. Some people soak it up like a sponge and just have an athletic ability and perform. Some people, it takes a little bit of a while. What is my purpose and why am I really here? And what am I really wanting to do? But I think for the most part, everybody does give me some level of respect because I have played and I do understand, what it takes to do what they're trying to accomplish now. The game has changed a lot in 23 years too, as far as our level of performance and what we're able to do as a team has really, really progressed. So, that's something that's really good to have happen.
So how many years do you think you have for coaching? Do you have another 20? Can the league get a full 40 years out of you?
I enjoy coaching a lot. I would love to coach as long as the Vixen are willing to have me, as long as I'm contributing and making things better and improving things for the team. That's always the goal. And I'm still learning. I'm new at being a football coach. I've been a coach in a lot of other things, and I was a coach in many other things for long periods of time. Softball coach. I was a color guard instructor. I've been working with people for ever. But being a football coach, there's still things you can get better at. There's still things that you can improve upon. There's still things that you can learn. I'm still learning about this game. I know more about this game now, I think, almost than I did when I retired. And I wish I would have, the last 3 years, I would have known 3 years ago. But it's just really fun. And I hope to continue as coaching, like I said, as long as I can do the job correctly.
Now, in 2018, you were inducted into the Women's Football Hall of Fame. And I know you were part of the inaugural class, and that must have been something really special for you. I mean, I've seen you wear that ring on the sideline at games. I mean, tell me, what was that like finding out that you were going to be part of the inaugural class for the Women's Football Hall of Fame?
Well, I kind of submitted it in as a fluke because I really didn't know if I was what they deemed of what they wanted. I've been a numerous time All-Star, but we as the Vixen, we've never won a championship. I kind of think that, could have been a deterrent for some people, but, as long for my longevity, being one of the original pioneers in women's football, playing for 20 years, being a team captain for many years, being a team leader for many years, being on our Vixen board and helping the team as it was growing, all those things, and when I found out, I was over the moon. Something that was just a dream come true, and I'm very proud to be, along with Red and along with our others, Jody Moose Rylander and Emily Sundberg, to be a Vixen players in the Hall of Fame.
I know I was lucky enough to be in Las Vegas to help induct Moose Rylander and Emily Sundberg into the Hall of Fame in 2019. Now, I want to thank you for 23 amazing years for women's football. And hopefully I'll get to see you the last weekend of July on that field behind me there in Canton, Ohio.
I sure hope so. And hey, Brian, I wanted to show you one thing. I have my original Vixen helmet from 1999. I wanted to show that to you. It sits up on my mantle behind me here, but I just wanted to show you. It's super light. It's a bike helmet. But this was the helmet that we wore. This was the original foxtail that we used to have. We used to put little stars on when we did good things, and it's pretty cool. This actually was the actual original helmet that was in the Water Boy, because our uniforms, a lot of our equipment that we had, as far as our helmets and our shoulder pads and things like that, were in the movie with Adam Sandler, The Water Boy. And these are all painted black. If you can look and you can see it closely, you'd see the purple underneath it. But yeah, that is original equipment from The Water Boy.
That is a great piece of movie trivia. Great. Thank you. I mean, you've always been one of my favorite Vixen players. We have a great professional relationship, and I look forward to many years, working with you, Michele. Thank you again.
You are welcome, sir. Love you. Take care of yourself.
This week's Game of the Week features the 3-0 Minnesota Vixen on the road to play the 4-0 Arlington Impact. This is the second meeting in history for these two teams. On July 20th, 2013, the Vixen lost in Arlington 18-14. Emory, in 8 seasons, many things have changed, but one thing has remained. These two teams show up every year ready to play. What can we look forward to this time when two undefeated teams match up this weekend in Texas?
Well, you're going to see a highly competitive game, number one, and that's the first and foremost that everyone wants to see. They want to see this go start to finish, all 4 quarters. For Minnesota, I look for their offense. Their offense really has to come out and fire on all cylinders. They can't have one of these off days against a team like the Impact. Otherwise, it could be a long day for them down there in Texas. And if you're Arlington, it's about making sure you keep your pedal to the metal early on defense. Again, your offensive Minnesota is someone that I think that has to come out and really start hitting the ground running, so to speak. But defensively for Arlington, it's about getting those early stops, making sure you're able to keep them in backed up situations, and then you could have the success you want. So I think we're going to learn a lot about the outcome of this game in the first quarter between these two teams.
Yeah, I mean, you've got week 1's player of the week, Grace Cooper, who leads the WFA in rushing yardage, going up a defense that's done everything in their power to shut down the run this season. So I agree with you. This is going to come down to the first quarter of what we see with that game. As we head to the playoffs in a few weeks, these games will become even more important. Follow For the Fans HQ on Twitter and Instagram to find out where you can watch the Vixen at Impact. And remember to follow the Women's Football Alliance on all social media platforms. Tickets are available to National Championship Weekend, July 23rd and 24th in Canton, Ohio, by heading to www.hofvillage.com and clicking on events. For Emory Hunt, I'm Brian Sweeney, and we'll see you next week on the road to Canton.